Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going deep on composting.
You compost, yeah.
Turning, your average kitchen scraps and yard waste into what some people call gardener's gold.
Gardener's gold. I like that.
Yeah.
It's good.
We're going to be focusing on the intro to composting.
Okay.
So what it is, why it matters,
right,
and its history.
Okay.
Which is surprisingly long. You might be surprised.
Longer than you think.
Yeah. So are you ready to dig in?
Let's dig in.
All right. So
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, me too.
Composting is really having a moment.
Yeah.
Like, it's so popular now.
It is.
It's great, but it's like you said, it's not new.
Not new at all.
Not at all.
No. So before we get into way back when,
okay,
what exactly are we talking about?
Yeah.
When we say composting?
So composting is basically the controlled decomposition of organic matter.
Okay.
Like, think your kitchen scraps,
right,
leaves, grass clippings, even things like hair and fur. Yeah. And the key is that it's happening in a managed environment with lots of air moisture, the right balance of materials.
Gotcha.
And that lets all these tiny organisms thrive.
Okay.
So your bacteria, your fungi, and others,
interesting,
they do all the heavy lifting.
So it's not just throwing stuff in a pile.
It's not just a pile in the corner.
Okay.
No, there's some science to it.
There's a real method to the madness.
Yeah, for sure. And then the result of all that activity is compost, which is this amazing nutrient-rich substance. So good for your soil and plants.
So that's the gardener's gold.
Exactly. It's like a natural, slow-release fertilizer full of good microorganisms.
But besides, turning our trash into treasure,
right,
what are the benefits of this?
Oh, there's tons of benefits.
Okay.
And it's not just for your garden soil.
Okay.
Compost can really improve the structure of your soil.
Interesting.
So it allows for better water and air circulation.
Which is important.
Super important for healthy plants, muffy roots.
Makes sense.
And plus, compost can hold tons of water.
Really?
It's like a sponge.
Wow.
So that's really helpful in dry conditions.
It's good news for me. I got sandy soil.
Perfect for sandy soil.
Awesome.
And there's more. It helps suppress diseases and pests.
Oh, wow.
Reduces erosion balances. The pH can even help remediate contaminated soil.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and get this, it even helps fight climate change.
Really? How does composting help with that?
So first of all, it keeps all that organic waste out of landfills.
Okay.
And when food breaks down in landfills, it releases methane.
Oh, right, methane.
Which is a bad greenhouse gas.
Yeah.
But composting actually captures some carbon.
Okay.
Pulls it out of the atmosphere, locks it into the soil.
Interesting.
Some studies say it can reduce household greenhouse gases by 30%.
Wow. So my banana peels can have a global impact.
I know, right?
It's pretty cool.
It shows how everyday things can make a difference. And the cool thing is, this isn't new information.
Really?
People have been doing this for centuries.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's get into the history then.
All right, let's time travel.
I'm ready.
So picture this: ancient civilizations.
Okay.
Egypt, Greece, Rome, India, China, Malaysia, they were all composting.
Wow.
They knew it was important to return that organic matter to the soil.
Interesting.
Way before synthetic fertilizers were even a thing.
It's amazing how these ancient practices are still relevant.
I know, it's a testament to them watching nature.
Yeah.
And some of the history is kind of surprising.
Okay.
Like the Aztecs, they used human waste in their systems.
Go off.
Yeah, a little different approach.
That's a bold choice.
But it shows they were resourceful.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and even closer to home, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson.
No way.
Yeah, they were experimenting with compost on their farms.
Wow, that's really cool.
So you see, it's got this long and diverse history.
So composting has stood the test of time.
Absolutely.
From ancient civilizations to founding fathers. That's right. It's been this constant practice for improving soil and growing food.
Exactly. And that long history gives us a great foundation to understand the benefits and how we can use it today.
So we've talked about the what and the why of composting.
Right.
And it's clearly more than just a trendy gardening thing.
Way more.
It's a science-backed practice with a rich history and a surprising impact on the planet.
I know, it's pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it really is remarkable how relevant it still is.
It is. And speaking of modern applications,
Yeah.
our source material kind of goes a bit deeper into,
Okay.
you know, how this gardener's gold is actually made.
Right,
What's
yeah.
happening, like, beneath the surface.
So it's a pretty fascinating biological process.
Okay.
It happens in stages.
Okay.
Different microorganisms are kind of leading the way at each step.
Interesting.
It's like a complex dance.
Okay.
Each organism has a specific role.
So who are the key players in this compost crew?
Well, first up, we've got bacteria. They're like the initial workers,
Okay.
breaking down the easy stuff
Okay.
and generating heat as they go.
That's why it's warm.
Exactly. That's the sign that they're working.
It's like a little party in there.
It is a party.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and as the temperature rises,
Yeah.
different types of bacteria take over.
Okay.
Ones that like it hot.
Gotcha.
They can break down the tougher stuff,
Okay.
like cellulose and lignin.
So the bacteria are crucial.
Yeah.
What about the fungi?
Oh, fungi are essential too.
Okay.
Especially in the later stages.
Okay.
They're really good at breaking down those complex plant polymers,
Interesting.
like the really tough bits.
So it's a team effort.
It's a whole ecosystem
That's so cool.
working together.
I'm starting to see why this stuff is so beneficial.
Yeah.
So how do we keep those microbes happy?
It's all about providing the right conditions. The source material talks a lot about the
Yeah.
importance of browns and greens.
I've heard that before,
Yeah.
but I don't really know what it means.
So basically, it's a carbon-nitrogen balance.
Okay.
Browns are your carbon-rich materials,
Like what?
like dry leaves, straw-shredded paper
Yeah.
that gives the microbes energy.
Okay.
And then greens are the nitrogen-rich stuff,
Okay.
like kitchen scraps, grass clippings.
Okay.
And that helps those microbes grow.
So it's like a recipe.
It is like a recipe.
You got to have the right amount of everything.
Exactly. You don't want too much of one thing.
What happens if you have too much?
If you have too many greens, it gets smelly and
Oh,
soggy.
you.
Too many browns, and it slows down.
So you got to find that sweet spot.
You got to find that Goldilocks zone.
All right.
Not too much, not too little.
And what about moisture?
Moisture is super important.
Okay.
It needs to be damp, like a wrung-out sponge.
Okay.
Too dry, and the microbes go dormant.
Okay.
Too wet, and it can get anaerobic.
Who's that more?
Anaerobic means without oxygen,
Okay.
and that's when you get the bad smells.
And probably pests.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Okay. So moist, but not sopping wet.
Exactly.
So-
And then air circulation is key too.
Right. The microbes need to breathe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to turn it regularly,
Exactly.
get that oxygen flowing.
So it's a bit of an art form getting this right,
There is an art to it.
but the results seem worth it.
Totally worth it. And there's not just one way to compost.
Really?
The source material mentions a few different methods.
I thought it was just chucking stuff in a bin.
Well, you can do that,
Okay.
but there are fancier ways too.
Okay, like what?
Well, there's hot composting.
Hot compost.
You got to manage the pile closely.
Okay.
Keep the temperature high.
And that does what?
That speeds up decomposition.
Okay.
And there's cold composting.
Okay.
That's more laid back.
Right.
Good for a hands-off approach.
So there's a style for everyone?
Pretty much. And then there's worm composting too.
Oh, yeah. Worm composting.
That's a good one.
I've heard about that.
It's called vermicomposting. You can do it inside, even in small spaces.
So I could compost in my apartment.
You could.
Worms. Worms are amazing decomposers.
I mean, I guess.
And they make great compost.
Okay. I'm a little weirded out, but I'm intrigued.
It's surprisingly efficient
Okay.
and no bad smells.
That's a plus.
Yeah. Good for small spaces or year-round composting.
So many different ways to approach this.
Yeah.
Hot, cold with worms.
Find what works for you.
Seems like the key is finding what works best for your situation.
Exactly. And once you've got your system,
Yeah.
the source material has some good tips for managing it
Okay.
and troubleshooting any problems.
Okay, so we talked about the science and the different methods.
Right.
Now let's get into those practical tips.
Okay.
What do we need to know about managing a compost pile?
Yeah, it seems like a lot to learn, but
It is.
the payoff is pretty big.
It is.
You get amazing compost,
Yeah.
less waste, and you're even helping with climate change.
That's right. All those benefits are highlighted in our source material.
Okay.
Really emphasizes the bigger picture of sustainability.
So how does composting contribute to a more sustainable world?
Well, think about how much waste we produce.
Yeah,
The source says almost a third of household waste is organic material.
a third.
Yeah, stuff that could be composted
That's a lot.
instead of going to a landfill. And remember, landfills are a big source of methane,
Right.
that greenhouse gas we talked about.
So you're reducing waste
Yeah.
and helping the environment?
Exactly, a win-win.
Yeah, it's a win-win. You get this great resource for your garden.
Yeah.
And you're reducing your environmental impact.
And it goes beyond just us individually.
Really?
The source talks about community composting, too.
What's community composting?
So it's groups of people,
Okay.
sometimes whole neighborhoods,
Wow.
working together to collect food scraps
Okay.
from homes, businesses, schools.
That's a cool idea.
They pool their resources,
Yeah.
build these communal compost systems,
Okay.
and then use that compost in community gardens.
Oh, that's great.
Or donate it to local farms.
So you're turning a waste problem into a community asset.
Exactly. It brings people together,
Yeah.
strengthens the local food system.
I love that.
Yeah.
But not everyone has a big backyard
Right.
or the time to compost.
Yeah.
What about apartment dwellers?
There are still ways to participate.
Okay, good.
You could try vermicomposting.
All right, with the worms.
Yeah, perfect for apartments.
Okay,
Because you can do it inside.
makes sense.
Small container.
All right. Alleyway worms are winning me over.
See?
What about other options?
You could also check for community composting programs.
Oh, okay.
Lots of cities offer curbside pickup now,
Really?
or drop-off
So
locations.
there's no excuse.
Pretty much anyone can compost.
It seems like there's a solution for everyone.
Yeah, and remember, composting isn't just about the finished product.
Okay,
It's about reconnecting with nature,
I like that.
understanding where our food comes from
Yeah.
and where it goes.
For the whole cycle.
Exactly. It's taking responsibility.
Yeah. Making choices that benefit everyone.
It's almost philosophical.
It is.
Composting is a way of life,
Yeah.
a way to close the loop,
I love that.
be more in tune with nature.
That's what it's all about.
Well, I think we've unearthed some real gems today
We have
in our deep dive into composting.
so much good stuff.
It's got ancient roots, a fascinating scientific process,
Yeah,
and it's a real path towards a more sustainable future.
absolutely. It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
From tiny microbes to global impact.
Yeah.
Composting shows us that small actions matter.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to explore composting, no matter where you live or your experience level.
Doesn't matter.
Start a backyard compost.
Yeah.
Join a community initiative.
Do it.
Just reduce your food waste.
Every little bit helps.
Every step counts.
And remember, it's a learning process.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to experiment. Get your hands dirty.
Good advice.
The rewards are worth it.
I think that's a great note to end on.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into composting.
It's been fun.
Until next time, keep digging, keep learning, and keep composting.